I hate the winter. I truly do. I can't stand being cold and wet, short days, and being trapped inside. And with this intense hatred, I thought that it would be a good idea to try out The Long Dark, a survival game set in the brutal snowy lands of Canada. In The Long Dark, a geomagnetic storm basically wipes out the human race and electricity. There's no bringing them back, and you're not searching the world trying to find a cure or to save humanity. You're alone, without power, wandering through the deep rural remnants of civilization, and you fight off starvation, hypothermia, dysentery, and wolves. For a change, The Long Dark isn't a survival game about fighting off zombies or monsters. You simply need to find food, shelter, and a way to stay warm. The objective is to stay alive as long as you can, but in the end, The Long Dark eventually takes everyone. Deep, man. But really, The Long Dark is a breath of fresh air for video games, even if it is on the depressing side, and even more depressingly, an early access game on Steam. It shows a lot of promise, and it's incredibly stable, but at the same time, it needs more. When it launches, there will be two modes, Survival Sandbox mode and Story mode. Currently, only the Sandbox version with 2 maps are available to players. You can choose to play as a male or female. I didn't notice a difference between the two except for the sound of your own voice. And you slowly march through the wasteland, rummaging through cabinets and drawers, looking for food and clothes. There are other items to discover, like rifles, ammunition, lanterns for exploration of dark places, etc. You can even make snares to trap food. Each time you play the game, you develop better and better strategies for survival, creating home bases to stockpile supplies while you travel light to save burning on too many calories, to further and further places to bring back more supplies. Everything in the game has a shelf life too. Food will spoil, clothes will wear out, tools will blunt and break, but you can also disassemble spare items into scrap metal or cloth to repair your favorite gear. According to the game's description, there are other survivors out there, but I haven't seen them. Visually, the game is very interesting. The almost cartoony appearance of the forests in the environment are a direct contrast to the fact that you're going to die. Nature in this game is beautiful, but harsh. And while there's no story to the game yet, that didn't stop me from mentally making a story, or at the very least a plan for myself during some playthroughs. One day I'm gonna venture out and see what's in that big house atop the hill across the lake. One day I'm gonna venture further to see if I can find something like a hatchet so I can make firewood, so I can cook meat, or melt snow, or boil water. And it's those mini-adventures that sucked me into the world. The Long Dark isn't for everyone, and even when it's done, even if it turns out to be an awesome game, it still won't be for everyone. I found myself frustrated from time to time by the world's limitations. I needed firewood, but I couldn't find much wood lying on the ground, even in the middle of a forest. For that, I needed a hatchet, and even then, finding wood would be a matter of a simple text menu. I was dying from the cold, but I couldn't put on an extra jacket, even though I was carrying 3 of them. And when I would get jumped by a wolf, I had to defend myself by jamming the left mouse button until I had enough strength built up, and then jam the right mouse button. It's not quite a QuickTime event, but it's close enough, and with all the added annoyance of button mashing. It's a bleak future, and without a story, or at the very least another character for me to care about within the game, it's tough to find a reason to go back and keep playing. As depressing as it sounds, The Long Dark is eventually going to take you. Whether that means you freeze to death, fall through the ice, die of starvation, or have your face chewed off by a hungry pack of wolves is up to fate. I picked up the game on the premise that this was survival horror. The survival is definitely there. The horror, not so much, unless you happen to be afraid of being alone with your thoughts. There's no denying it's an awesome idea, and plenty of people out there want to see how far they can push themselves. In a way, it's a modern version of a high score on an arcade machine. There's even a Steam board showing who's survived the longest in the current build. I guess I'm just not one of those people who wants to find out how long I can make my supply of beans last. I want to check back in on the game for sure when it's closer to done, and I hope the story mode carries it to new heights. I also hope that some balancing is done, maybe even adding in a difficulty slider that controls the degradation of materials and calories. Right now, the dev is asking $20 for the early access version, but is toying with the idea of increasing the price when the final build is completed. It's original and stylistically wonderful and definitely stable. I just don't know if there's $20 worth of content here. Not yet, but it does seem like the developer is supplying regular updates to the game, which is promising. Like almost all early access games, I'd say put your money on the line if you definitely know this is something you want to try out and watch become a reality. But it's cold, and it's lonely, and it's one of the more interesting games I've tried out this year. This video is made possible through generous fan donations on Patreon.